morning.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to week 5. It is week 5, guys. I mean, we're getting ready to start, and I think I'm excited for this week. My teams have not been that good. I'm 2-2 in the listener league. I am 1-3 in my family league that matters the most to me, and in my $100 league buy-in, I'm 2-2 as well. So kind of right in the middle of the road. But back with me, as always, is John Marchbanks, Paulie from Paulie Sleepers, and Jackson Mears. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing good.
Are you guys fired up? I mean, we won some money this week.
We won money.
I mean, we got above what I deposited finally.
Right.
So I'm super excited about
4 weeks.
So you're in the clear. We made up for our small losses the first 3 weeks, and kind of a mini crush. I mean, like, we're drinking Busch Light Draft, so we're not drinking Oberon today.
I mean, we're not celebrating too soon.
We're not cracking champagne or anything, but we did win some lunch money, and a lot of the followers on Twitter, posted their results, and everybody won except for my brother that picked the one lineup out of the 8 that we posted that didn't cash.
You want to know what drives me insane, though, too? I bet on the Colts. Do you remember me talking about this last week?
Yes.
Bet on the Colts to cover the spread, and they lost by 3. So the thing is, though, I was really about to give up about halftime. I was like, fuck this. I mean, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to even make money off this. So I was really pissed. And then they started making kind of a comeback. They tied the game. I was like, this is going to turn out exactly how I needed it to, because the spread was 2 points and they needed to win by 3. So I was like, dude, they're going to get the ball after overtime. They're going to march down, kick or score. Then they're going to cover the spread. And then they got stopped. So I was like, and they kicked the field goal. I was like, okay, cool. We're good. We're still good. They can stop them. They can get the ball back, kick another field goal, win, cover the spread. I win, $100 or something like that. And then obviously the Colts let me down. It's a ballsy call by the coach. I like the call. I'm going for that every time.
I think all Colts fans are happy that
there's a lot of shit getting talked about him, but
we're playing for the win now.
Yeah. I was at the game, and we were, the north end zone, and the amount of boos when the Sanchez came out the punt.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, you're giving away the game. Like, at least go for it. And when they brought Luck back onto the field, because they called a timeout right there.
Right.
It was just like, dude, heck, there was just a positive energy coming through. But that game wasn't lost on that last drive. It was lost. You have the fumble, the snap fumble into the end zone,
which was completely ridiculous.
Bad use of timeouts.
That
ball. The amount of drop balls that our receivers had was ridiculous. Ryan Grant, T.Y., Chester Rogers, and even Eric Ebron just completely.
And going into that game, Grant had one of the best catch rates in the league. Right. So it was kind of an anomaly, but games come down to a couple plays.
Last thing I want to say about it is we are, as a Colts fan, we are actually, I feel like, on our way to building a better team. Something that I'm actually excited to watch. Yeah. I don't just automatically assume we're going to fucking lose.
But out of all the teams in the league right now, arguably we could say, hey, obviously we're 1-3 now, but we could be 4 now.
Yeah.
Hands
easily.
Down.
Well, at least we have a winning philosophy. I like that. So that's where it's going to start.
Yep. So basically, let's just dive right into it, and we're going to start with the news, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, baby, I've got breaking news.
Breaking news.
I've got some good news.
I've got some bad news.
I'm liking the voice, Paulie. That was good. So what do we got going on? I know that there's a lot of talk about Lev Bell coming back at the bye week. Tell me what's going on other than that, or even include that as well.
Tough to say. Talk that he's coming back week 7. Coach speak. I haven't talked to him. I have no idea. That's what Coach Tomlin said. But I would expect that he's going to come back and be ready to go. And if he comes back week 7, that's 3 weeks earlier than the worst case scenario. He's got to come back by week 10 to be able to get that free agent situation. So a lot of people trying to trade James Conner this week. In the league, I have Lev Bell and I picked up James Conner. Ross's league. It's my first year in the league. He called me 2 days before the draft. And no one was falling for the banana in the tailpipe. I was hoping that somebody would not have the news that Lev Bell was coming back. So I'm thinking, okay, this is my last chance to get value for Connor. So now I'm hoping he gets traded so I could play both of them. But it's still very, very murky, but it looks like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just, you got to love Coach Tomlin. Oh, yeah, no, I have no idea.
And what's crazy is there's no clarity on it. There's no
absolutely none.
I mean, no matter what, both of them are in bad positions. The team is in a bad position because if they play him and then he's not worth a damn because he's not in shape, then they're in trouble. He's in trouble money-wise because if he leaves, there's a bunch of different, I don't know all of the details, but basically there's a bunch of different ways where he's not going to get what he wants out of it. And then also it's going to screw over if he does get traded or gets put on another team. It's going to screw that team over potentially because they're going to say, oh, we're going to pay you next year. But then they don't know.
They actually can't
know what they
sign him until the end of the year. Yeah. Joey Bag of Donuts, who was on the podcast, explained it better than you and I just tried to.
Right. But I mean, it's just crazy though. It seems like a no-win situation for Lev Bell or the Steelers.
Well, also,
and the Steelers are bad right now.
James Conner's efficiency has gone down a lot. So he's gone from 8.3 yards a carry to 3.9 yards a carry. So he's coming back to pedestrian numbers and not looking like the world beater right now. He's going to be great in a perfect matchup, and he definitely is a great guy. But I mean, they're not using him like that. I think in the beginning they just wanted to show Lev Bell we don't need you, but they're not using him like that in that 85% of the targets anymore. So anyway, Lev Bell owners have maybe reason to rejoice, but we don't know much because there's not much to know.
And just on another note, just really quick before you move on, the Earl Thomas breaking his leg, basically what happened to him is what could have happened to Lev Bell. Could have happened, and that's why I think that Lev Bell's supporting him via social media.
Right.
And also, it's one of those things that made me laugh super hard when you said coach speak, because Pete Carroll, when he was asked, how did you feel about Earl Thomas flipping you off and the rest of the team, and he's like, it's a big stadium. I don't know who he's flipping off.
I don't know who he's flipping off. He could have been flipping off that guy.
Pete Carroll still thinks he's coaching for the Trojans.
I know he does. But anyways, I just wanted to say that I think it was a hilarious thing for a coach to say.
Because of that happening, I did not expect for news to come right out about Lev Bell, because it kind of supports his case. But maybe he's trying to extend the olive branch and be like, hey, you know what? I do want to be a team guy, and realizing he does need to come back to work. He's got to have.
Well, and he also said, I think there was something about him trying to get in shape in a few weeks, and
I hope he's not going to start trying to get in shape.
Yeah, I mean,
because that jet ski is still getting fitted for water shocks. I don't know. He looks pretty big.
I don't know. It looked like it was taking on some water.
He looked pretty big. Anyway, guys, moving on. The PED boys are back. The suspended players.
Everybody's excited about it.
Yeah, you've got Mark Ingram, you've got Julian Edelman, and you've got Big Tree Trunk Arms, Robert Turbin for the Colts, all coming back. With Gronk, questionable for this week, that could be an uptick, an immediate work for Edelman. The Saints offense has been great, but they're like, what are they, 2-2? Yeah, I think they're 2-2. They could use a more established running game there. Alvin Kamara owners should not worry.
He just looks so good, man. Every week in and week out.
God, I love that man.
Was it you that tweeted or you retweeted somebody that was the people talking about Alvin Kamara, great first year, not sustainable.
Right.
And they were like, well, that's probably the first couple weeks, or those are the best games of his life.
Right.
It's obviously going to go downhill. And then the third one, it's maybe he is something.
Yeah.
Maybe he is something.
And even, I don't name names in this situation, but there's a couple guys in the DFS community that have been saying, no, he's too pricey and it's not sustainable, and they don't recommend playing him every week. And two of these very well-known guys this week were like, okay, I'm done. You play him. He's
every week.
He's worth that Lev Bell price tag. He gives you that kind of points. So, people have finally come around on that. But Mark Ingram in the backfield just means that he's going to line up probably more as a wide receiver and do even better.
Saints are 3-1, by the way.
Saints are 3-1. Okay, I thought they were 2-2. And Edelman could be a huge boost. They need a boost in the passing game. But we were talking about, is the era over last week, and they smashed Miami. And now
and I was completely wrong about the Gordon call, but it's another week that he could blow up again.
He probably will blow up at some point, but he still is kind of nursing back from a hamstring, and he doesn't know the playbook. You could tell. I mean, I think he took 30% of the snaps, and it looked like he ran 2 routes.
He did have, I think he had 3 catches, and he could have had a 4th, and it was called back because of a flag.
2 for 32.
Okay, so it could have been 3 for whatever.
But I mean, you look at that Patriot situation. Like, I think tomorrow's gonna be a bloodbath for the Colts going up against them. But I mean,
hey, I'm just having some faith, man.
Hey, I mean,
they're gonna come into Foxborough and they're gonna lay the smack down on them.
I mean, if
the Chiefs did it last year Thursday night.
That's true, but we're not the Chiefs. But I mean, you look at it at the point they get Edelman back. Gronk's banged up. Hogan hasn't lived up to the statue of, hey, I'm gonna be a number 1 receiver. Gordon's trying to learn a playbook. Sony Michael's coming in. James White's still doing this. I mean, he's been the most consistent player for the Patriots. So, I mean, once this group gets clicking on all cylinders, watch out.
You know they will, and they're going to figure it out.
It's going to happen week 16.
Yeah.
Nobody can do anything about it.
Yeah. Like I said last week, I mean, when they've started like this and lost and started off 2-2 or 1-3, they've gone on to only lose 2 games the rest of the year. Moving on, Devonta Freeman looks like he's going to be back this week with a plus matchup. So if you need him, and a lot of people need running backs, you could throw him into the lineup. Joe Mixon is hopeful for this week. So Tevin Coleman and Gio Bernard have been very, viable, but Gio probably will go back onto the waiver wire. He has for me already in 1 league. And Tevin Coleman is always a guy that you could start if you need him, especially in a flex. But I mean, he's not going to.
I got a couple of sit-start questions for you later.
Okay. So Matt Breida is banged up, so they're going to limit his usage. He only got like 12 touches last week, so that needs to be monitored. Adrian Peterson is still rehabbing an ankle. He was in a walking boot. There hasn't been a lot of talk about this, but he was in a walking boot until Monday. He says he will play revenge game. I mean, he only played for the Saints for like 2 cups of coffee, but
hide your kids, hide your wives.
If he's back, that's a very good matchup against the Saints. Lamar Miller, we'll talk about more later, but he's just been kind of game scripted off of the field, and there's somebody you should probably stash because of that. Chris Carson was a surprise late inactive last week, and poor Rashad Penny, who was drafted in the first round, only caught like 8 carries. Mike Davis, who was their starting running back last year for a few weeks until he got hurt, they must really like him. He had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Nice.
So
I guess anybody start him?
All the Rashad, no, because it came out so late, and everybody just thought, okay, well, it's Rashad Penny time, and he got like 8 carries. So I've been talking about Rashad Penny forever. I think it's time. I mean, if Carson goes down and he can't get on the field, it's definitely, dump spill time for him, and his pass blocking sucks. That's why I haven't liked this guy. So Dalvin Cook, hamstring.
I'm worried about him, man.
He got 20 yards
I had him
last
in
week.
a couple leagues.
But like the whole thing with Cook, though, not to interrupt you, but it's like that team, their precedent coming into the year was, okay, let's play good defense and let's run the ball. Okay, they can't run the ball because their offensive line is trash. Cook's hurt, so it's like you're forcing Cousins to go sling the ball 40 to 50, 60 times a game, and it's like you're not.
I did own Cousins as well, which helped.
Yeah,
that he was throwing the ball that much.
I mean, he's not 100%, and they said he'll probably play this week, but he's not going to be 100%. It's not a good matchup this week versus Philly that allows 68 yards per game. So if you can bench
68,
yeah.
They haven't allowed a running back over 36 yards, I think, in the past 9 games.
Yeah, their run deep
is dating back to last year.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's trending bad for Marlon Mack this another week, which there was hope that he'd come back last week. So this more Nyheim Hines, which we'll talk about later. We will see Robert Turbin this week, which we've already mentioned. My hot take in July was that Nyheim Hines would lead the Colts backfield in fantasy football points. I backed off of it because in the preseason he fumbled 4 times.
Yeah, he looked real bad, and then he looked really good the last couple weeks.
But with no TY this week, Doyle's still out. I think he's going to get
he's settling
lot
in.
of targets.
Settling in, feeling more sure about himself, more sure-handed, and they're throwing to him a lot.
And
But
that
also,
catch,
Luck trust him though.
and that catch in the end zone was a wide receiver catch where he was falling back.
That was beautiful.
I mean, that was an AJ Green catch.
We were on that end zone where he caught it and was like, okay, who the hell just went up and got it? Then you see the little arm, the arm sleeves on the side, and it's like, damn, that dude went up and got that.
Little short
he
guy.
earned that ball. He earned that touchdown.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Shady McCoy is back, but he still sucks. Leonard Fournette.
Moving on.
Leonard Fournette to miss 2 or 3 weeks. At least now we know. We talked about this last week, how frustrating it is to be a Leonard Fournette owner because you don't know. 10 minutes before the game, you find out. We know now that Leonard Fournette is not playing. So, TJ Yeldon, we'll talk about him later. But Fournette's going to be out for...
Is Fournette just going to eventually just kind of fade to dust and we're just never going to see him again?
I think his ankle is already dust.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he'll be maybe viable later, and there's somebody sitting at the table that wants to talk about him later too. So, we've got T.Y. Hilton that went out with an abdomen, came back in the game, and then left with a hamstring. So that's not good. He won't play this week. So we've got a mixture of.
Does T.Y. miss a lot of games? I don't feel like he does.
No.
So this is kind of a little shocking for me.
But hamstring is,
especially with a quick guy like that.
I mean, that's the theme of the year so far.
It seems like
injuries.
it seems like it's hamstring year.
We need to get some trainers in there that know what they're doing.
Right. Will Fuller, hamstring.
Yep.
So Kiki
Paul Lundgaard, hamstring.
I told you mine are always so tight.
I went to physical therapy today. She's
feel
like, you're really tight. I'm like, yeah, I don't stretch.
I feel like they're just tight to the point of snapping at
The
any
most
moment.
stretching you do is when you put your shoes on in the morning.
Yeah.
She was like, does this feel good? I was like, no.
Well, I dropped that.
Not really.
I dropped that beer earlier, and I had to. But Will Fuller out with a hammy, and Kiki Kuti from
Driving me insane.
Kiki, do you love me?
Drove me insane because all I wanted him to do was throw to Will Fuller.
Well, no, like,
he went out of the game.
Well, at the game, dude,
all
we're
that.
like, the PA announcer's like Kiki Kute with a gain of 16. I'm like, who? Like, who the hell is?
Yeah,
Kiki?
who is that guy?
Like, is this like a makeup, like emoji name, like a Madden player guy? Like, I don't know.
Never heard of him. It's insane. It's ridiculous, and I was just tired of watching it.
There was some preseason hype.
He seemed
over this
always
guy.
open, too.
He was
Always open.
Big rookie they talked about. He had a record 15 targets for an NFL debut and caught 11 of them. So,
is he worth picking up?
yeah, we'll talk about him later. Geronimo Allison, who did great for us in DFS, could have had a much better game. He had 5 for 90, but he was out with a concussion. So he left that game. Fitz is still playing through a hammy, so that's Larry Fitzgerald, not Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's not playing football anymore.
Poor guy.
Fitz magic turned into Fitz tragic.
He had his 15 minutes of fame and turned into the pumpkin at midnight.
He did. That blew my hot take, but my hot take was that he would start when Winston came back.
Oh yeah,
and he did.
Yeah, you're right.
It just didn't last any longer than that. So Sammy Watkins left Sunday with a hamstring. So 0.
I need to get like a pig noise or something that I can play.
0 points. I think Josh needed a good game from Watkins to win. Was it that our league or Jeff's league? In one of these leagues,
was that the battle of the 3-0s?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think. Yeah. It was this.
And then he went out, and it was kind of a disappointing way to lose.
I showed up. We watched the second half at a bar, and we showed up, and we were hanging out or whatever. And then like he's looking, I could tell he's kind of looking around. And I was like, oh yeah, Sammy had 0 points. He's out with a hamstring. He was like, God damn it, because he knew he was just done right there. But what else do we have? Gronk. I think he's okay, but he missed part of that game.
He's just gonna take a week off.
It's either like tomorrow night with Gronk. It's either going to be he goes out and smashes the Colts, or he puts up 0. Like there's no in between.
They might just kind of limit his usage because they probably won't need,
or have him as like a decoy.
They probably won't need a lot of Gronk.
Tomorrow night might be Jonas Gray part 2.
I just can't wait because I mean love having the Colts on Thursday because then that opens my Sunday.
The only thing that sucks though, Troy Aikman's calling it. dude, like listening to him call broadcasts is like
Troy's fine.
okay. Troy or what's the guy or
Chris Collinsworth.
Who would you rather have call a game?
Dude, I love Collinsworth.
I'm fine with both of those guys. I like
may-
Buck. I like Buck too. We did that Twitter poll the other day. I like Buck too.
Collinsworth is
fine
my
with-
boss, so
Dude, you put Collinsworth and Buck together, it would be a great combination.
No, I
We got to
love
move on,
Collinsworth.
If we
guys.
have any
We gotta-
Fox representatives
We got to
listen.
move on. OJ Howard to miss a few weeks. He screwed us in DFS. He only had 0 points. He left that game early. Cameron Brate, we'll talk about later, is going to be the starting tight end, but they're on a bye. Tyler Eifert broke his ankle. He's out for the season. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Another dusty ankle.
Yeah. Will Dissly, who kind of flashed early for the Seahawks, is out. He's on the IR, so a bunch more tight ends went down, guys. This is not getting good for tight ends. Jake Butt, the starting tight end for the Broncos, went down IR. How'd you like that Todd Hewerman DFS call the other night? I was like, I'm playing Todd Hewerman, and Jax was like, who?
I didn't even know who you said.
I don't know who that is.
He did great. He had like 12 points. I mean, he was like the cheap bare minimum,
Right.
and they peppered him with targets.
But hey, that's another question we can ask Becca.
Yeah,
if she comes on.
Well, we'll talk to Becca about that. So some kickers kicked the ball in between the uprights, and some of them missed left, right, or under, and that's the news.
Another issue with that. I said I wouldn't talk anymore about the Colts, but why ice the kicker?
That was
It gives them a second chance, I guess. But it's one of those things like
You mean ice the win?
Yeah, it's one of those things that if it does work, like and they've hit it and then they miss the second one, then you're like, okay, good job. But I don't know. I hate the icing.
It seems to me though that we get the one where we ice and the guy would have missed.
Yeah,
that happens
every time.
Or
but
maybe that's
I
just
would rather lose than tie though.
Right.
I mean, that's just me though.
I mean, I would go for the win, lose as opposed to punting and tying. Yeah, I'm all in on that. I agree, 100%. So we're moving on to DraftKings, and then we're gonna hear a lot of this weekend, right?
Let's hope.
We did this weekend.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so what do we got this week with DraftKings? We won some money last week. Guys, I did put $100 in, and little did I know, we were down to the bare minimum. We had very little left, and Paulie and Jackson put up some lineups that got me above what I deposited. So we're in the positive right now. We're in the is it the black? Are you in the black when you're in the red? Or
I don't know that one.
Are you in the red when you're? I think you're in the black.
We just
you're
made
good.
some green. That's the only color.
There we go. So yeah, you started with 100, and right now you have 140,
Yep.
and that was you were down to $58,
and then down to 3.
Well, yeah, we said screw the whole bankroll management thing. We bet $55, and
Yep.
we won like $85
Right.
for you.
Yeah, it was good week.
Everybody that followed us on Twitter and everybody that played along won money, and Jackson came up with a great cash lineup. Jackson, why don't you talk about the process a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, the way I kind of looked at it was, I mean, just focusing on the high scoring games, but also looking at like last week was such a great week for value receivers with like Tyler Boyd, Ridley, Geronimo, and also Mike Williams. So I was like, okay, let's pay up for 2 stud running back. Let's get Bernard in. Let's get a decent quarterback in the Atlanta Cincy game.
And our 2 stud running backs were Zeke, that had over 230 yards, and Alvin Kamara, that scored 3 touchdowns.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Did Mike Williams take a PTO day?
yeah.
Dude, we were
happened?
sitting so pretty.
Yeah.
And then that game script was perfect for him.
Was it the coaching or was it Mike Williams?
I think it was just more of them getting Gordon the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all checkdowns to Gordon.
He didn't get targets at all. I mean, we won money, but God, if you just think about like Geronimo was doing great. He was like 5 for 90. He missed most of the second half.
Yeah.
OJ Howard went down, and Cameron Brate came in and scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
Mike Williams didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we were a couple players away from winning very big money,
Yeah.
but that's okay. That is what it is.
But I mean, like on my cash build, I had that set Saturday morning at like 10. I was like, dude, because the previous week I faded my cash build for Bortles, and I completely ate the dust on that one. So I was set in stone, just believed in it, had confidence in my process.
Eric Ebron scored. That was our core
that
tight
was big.
end.
So
and the Bears got like 14 or 15 against the Bucks.
And
that was our core.
This is just a future reference play. If the Bears are ever under 3K on any fantasy site, you play them.
Yeah.
Like no matter what.
And remember last week I said I have a feeling that when we smash is going to be when we find the right defense. And that's what we did. We played 100% Bears, and it was a great call. Jackson's cash lineup scored 220 points. My best GPP lineup was 226.
Yeah.
So he could have cashed in any GPP tournament that he played in too, including the, Millionaire Maker, whatever you want to do, triple ups. He did a triple up for you. We do a lot of double ups, but I noticed he did a triple up where, the double up, half the people, double their money, and the triple up, a third of the people triple their money. He did a triple up for you, and he was the top scorer in the triple up out of like 190 people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, but the biggest thing, if I could give anybody advice, I'm an amateur when it comes to this. I'm not a professional, but I like it so much. Just trust your process. Don't second guess yourself with all the research you've done.
No toilet tinkering.
Yeah, that ain't no kidding.
He sent me his lineup like on Wednesday or Thursday, and I was like, that's great. Don't mess with it. And the week before is when we kind of got off of a couple of the plays that we were strong on. So that's...
You know what? We're on to bigger and better things. We're going to make some more money. So, yeah, this week, week 5, dude, we're a quarter of the way through the year.
Yeah.
That is so bittersweet.
It's scary.
It is what it is. But, so quarterbacks this week, everyone's going to be focusing on Ben Roethlisberger and Matt Ryan. I'm going to go someone that's lesser owned, and it'll cost a hell of a lot less, but even in a great matchup. And that's Joe Flacco. He's 5,400 on DraftKings. The Browns rank 5th in DVOA versus the pass, so that's kind of scary. But the Browns just lost starting corner Terrence Mitchell for the year. The Browns cornerback grades
that was
are
a nasty play, by the way.
Yeah,
His forearm was at a 90-degree angle. It was gross.
Yeah, but according to Pro Football Focus, the Browns cornerbacks grade out 10th, 99th, and 105th out of 111 graded participants. So it's definitely a pass funnel team. Flacco has yet to throw less than 34 times, 276 yards, and 1 touchdown this year. In his past 6 games versus the Browns, Flacco has thrown 11 touchdowns and rushed 3 in. So, almost guaranteeing him for 2 touchdowns possibly.
I talked about this last week. Dating back to like week 10 of last year, Flacco's number 1 quarterback in fantasy football, and nobody's talking about it. Yep. Jackson just surprised the hell out of me. I thought his cash quarterback was Kirk Cousins. So who else do you like?
So last week my lock and load play was Zeke. Like there was no hinging from that. Like he was in every one of my lineups.
You
this
got
week
me on
you
Zeke
nailed
too.
that one.
Yeah.
This week's lock and load play is Melvin Gordon at 8,600. The Raiders D ranks, 28th in DVOA versus the run. Maybe you need a pass rusher, Khalil Mack.
They're just missing one key part to that defense.
I
know if there was just one player that the Raiders could have
did they trade
that would just transform like a really crazy guy, like a guy that could strip it and
Like
sack
the
it and pick it up and
defender in
score
the
with
league.
it.
And he sacks. What does he sack, John?
He's too expensive.
He sacks the ball.
I think his last name rhymes with sack too. Just saying.
Guys, if you're just tuning in, John Marksbanks is a Raiders fan, so we give him some shit from time to time. So we like Melvin Gordon a lot, and I'm totally 100% onto that play.
But the Raiders have allowed 557 yards on the ground this year in 4 games. That's an average of 139.25 per game. Melvin Gordon is only averaging 13.5 rushing attempts, but now has secured 24 of 34 targets for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon has yet to score under 16.4 DraftKings points, but he does have 3 games of over 30 DraftKings points. He is my lock and load play of the week at running back.
Nice.
Play Gordon.
Easy as that.
And at wide receiver, I think I know who our locked and loaded guy is.
It's Juju Smith-Schuster.
Ooh, I love me some Juju.
Fight on USC, baby.
At Team Juju on Twitter. He's a great follow.
But the Falcons ranked 23rd in DVOA versus both the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. In the past 3 games for Atlanta, the slot receiver going against them has torched them for 24 receptions, 315 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In high-scoring games so far this year, which means 43 points or more, Juju has 22 receptions for 30 targets for 237 yards and 1 touchdown. According to Pro Football Focus, he has a 23% advantage over Brian Poole. Juju is 3 inches taller and 4 pounds heavier than Poole. Fire him up.
It's what we call a plus matchup.
Oh yeah.
We like Adam Thielen there too, right?
Yeah, Thielen.
Guy's just a target monster.
It's a flip a coin play.
And those guys are 7,500 and 7,700, and that's you're going to get the kind of production
if you have some savings. I mean, I don't fault you for playing Thielen. I mean, he's in a great matchup too. But I mean, I just think in a high scoring game, you want pieces of the game. And that kind of follows into my tight end. My tight end, I only wrote one down. This is the only one I'm playing for the week. That's Vance McDonald. He will stiff arm you and break your collarbone.
Vance McDizzle, baby. We've been talking about him for 3 weeks now.
So far, the Falcons rank 13th in DVOA versus a tight end. In the past 3 weeks, the Falcons have allowed these stat lines. Tyler Eifert, 4 receptions for 38 yards and 1 touchdown before he broke his ankle. Ben Watson, 38-year-old Ben Watson, 5 receptions for 71 yards. And Zach, make it Ertz, 5 receptions for 48 yards. When healthy this year, Vance has secured 12 receptions for 200 yards and 1 touchdown. He also has the best tight end matchup over on Pro Football Focus with a 49% advantage over Jordan Richards, where he is 5 inches taller and 57 pounds heavier.
And they want a tight end involved in their game, and they trade for this guy.
And it's not Jesse James. Do not play Jesse James.
No, and that's what I said a couple weeks ago. Remember, I said, that was the trap. Don't fall for it. Like, the guy to pick up is Vance McDonald, and he was a big waiver wire pickup this week, but maybe you listened to me and picked him up last week and already have him on your roster. But a couple of those other stats you were talking about earlier were really cool. Like, he's fourth in routes. In routes per run, he
has the highest catch percentage rate. He's securing 95% of his catches. He's 4th in fantasy points per route run,
and he's only $3,700 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
I think we're different on defenses, though. I don't like that we're different on defenses, but maybe that'll change.
I didn't even write one up. I didn't want to kind of give decisive opinion because it's so murky this weekend.
Okay, well, I'll get decisive. It's the Panthers at home coming off a bye week with deer in the headlights Eli Manning. He doesn't even look down the field anymore. And the Giants have set a record for they haven't scored 30 points in 70 football games. I'm saying fire up the Panthers. They don't have anybody that really shines on defense, like those big kind of players, like guys that you talk about, like Khalil Mack or Von Miller or any of those guys.
Did you say Khalil Mack?
but for $3,300 at home, coming off a bye, fresh. Eli just looks scared. They look really bad. He'll throw picks. That's my pick, and that's my lock and loaded $3,300, and Jackson will come up with his.
See, my shot in the wind, and it's a road defense. We don't like that. If you get the chance, play a home defense. My defense would be at 2,700. The Ravens going to Cleveland against a rookie quarterback in Baker who likes to throw pick sixes.
And they have Jimmy Smith back.
And their back 7 is pretty damn good.
Definitely not a bad play. I like Cam Newton this week. I like Matt Ryan in that Pittsburgh-Atlanta likely shootout. He's $6,400. Big Ben's not a bad play at $6,900. He's the top guy on the main slate. Love Melvin Gordon as well. Love Christian McCaffrey. He's like 5.9 yards per carry so far this year and getting 30 points per game, and he hasn't scored a touchdown in the last 2 weeks. Christian McCaffrey is an absolute what we call a slate breaker. He can break the slate. I think that Melvin Gordon and Christian McCaffrey are this week's Zeke and Alvin Kamara for DraftKings. I love Adam Thielen. Juju. Julio Jones has the top wide receiver matchup on Pro Football Focus this week. Last week he had 9 for 173. I predicted him to get 2 for 210 and a touchdown. So really, I just messed up predicting that he would get a touchdown. He's now on pace for 2,000 yards and 0 touchdowns. But where we're going, we don't need touchdowns if you're Julio Jones. So I like him this week. Love me some Vance McDonald. I think if you want to pay up for a tight end, Zach Ertz gets.
Keep going.
It sounded like a storm came through my microphone. It was really weird. It sounded like it was going to thunderstorm. It's fine now. Zach Ertz is getting major targets.
Yeah.
The Panthers defense. So
if you're paying up a quarterback, you pay up for Ben. There's no question about it. If you go anything above 6,100, you pay for Ben. Another stat that I triggered up was in Pittsburgh's last 3 games, they've combined to rush the ball for a total of 130 yards. Connor is not running the ball.
No, and one of my flyers this week is Switzer for the Steelers, whose his targets keep going up, and Atlanta's susceptible in the middle of the field, and he's gotten 10 DraftKings points the last 2 weeks, and he's only 3,000. So that's a Paulies sleepers play, a cheap guy that can get a lot of other guys in your lineup. And then looking at Robert Valdez-Scantling,
for Green Bay.
If Geronimo Allison and Randall Cobb sit out, this guy is going to be, they've already said that he's going to be out there starting, and they drafted him this week. He got limited time last week after Randall Cobb went out. 3 targets, 1 catch for 38 yards. But, anytime you can get a big piece of Aaron Rodgers for, I think he's $3,300. So there's some cheap plays that we can play to get the expensive guys in your lineups. And we're going to win you money, guys. Again, this week you can go to paulysleepers.com right now and get Jackson's write-up on his player pool. There's a cash game tab player pool, and then there's a tournament tab player pool, and those are my players. And then on Saturday we will release the juicy cash lineup, the one that's cashed 3 out of the first 4 weeks. So go ahead and play that one.
Doing a good job.
If you don't want to gamble for the $1 million and do all that crazy stuff that I do, just play Jackson's lineup and double your money. And then I'll post like probably 3 or 4 suggested lineups, even though you're not supposed to post DraftKings lineups.
But hey, funny story real quick. You know who won the Millionaire Maker this weekend?
Probably the guy that played Mitchell Trubisky's 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, but you know what his name was on DraftKings?
Paulie?
Nickelback for life.
Nice.
So we're going to call Bronco.
I just like that little drop. Like, that's a good money play right there.
Just saying.
Nickelback rocks. Is that what it was?
I mean, I saw him at concert when I was like 9.
I'm still big. I mean,
dude, the amount of tits I saw at that concert. Sorry, but
we're getting ready to call Rebecca. Can you guys please get out of the locker room?
I am a closet Nickelback fan. Not gonna lie.
Burn it to the ground, baby.
So we are going to go ahead and give her a call. On the phone with us is at Bronco Becca on Twitter. She writes for FS Statistics, and she is her and her husband compete in fantasy football together, and she is first place and her husband is second place. According to her tweet, that's the way it's supposed to be, but right now my wife is kicking my ass in our family league. So once again, thank you for joining us, Becca. I'm excited to talk to you and actually get some of your thoughts on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys. I'm really happy to be here today.
All right, so Paulie's got some questions for you. I'm going to let him lead off with that.
So, again, thanks for being on. This is cool. The one thing I wanted to say, Becca, is like, I think we kind of both started at the same time on Twitter, and I think we're pretty much 2 of the biggest, fastest growing, Twitter accounts for fantasy football. I think we're both pretty much in the same community of guys. And I think you joked that having a picture of a cute girl on the profile helps because you are kind of smashing me on followers. But how did you start just getting on Twitter and talking about fantasy football? I mean, what prompted you to do that?
Well, I've been playing fantasy football for 5 years. This is my 5th year playing. And I have a couple buddies that I text about fantasy with. And one of my buddies just kept telling me, like, you need to get on Twitter. You need to go to Twitter. You're asking me all these questions and stuff. Like, just go to Twitter. So I finally, last year I thought about it, but never did it. And then this year decided, I want that interaction, with other people. I want to, look at all these articles and do polls and all that stuff. So signed up for an account and honestly did not expect to I'm over 1,600 followers now, and I joined on August 2nd was my first day.
That's
so
awesome.
I did not expect to have...
That's awesome. We literally both started almost the same day. I mean, my account, I think I opened one in 2015, but I didn't do anything on there until the beginning of August. And I kind of joked with you. I said, you're getting to the point now where you need to be the one answering the questions and not asking them, because people are going to be looking to you for advice, and I think you really know what you're doing. I love following your account. I mean, yours is definitely one of my favorites to follow. I was going to ask you, how many leagues are you in, and how many is the right amount? Are you in a bunch of leagues like me? I'm in 6 leagues.
Oh, I'm in 5. So before I joined Twitter, I was in 3 leagues. And I said, I'm not doing more than 3 leagues. I did 5 a couple years ago and was just completely mediocre in all 5 leagues. So I said, no, this year I'm just capping it at 3. Then I got invited to do a fantasy writers league and thought, okay, I can do one more league
That's
with a
what
bunch
happens.
of fantasy writers. That'll be competitive. And then I got on with FF Statistics, the website I write for, and of course I had to join the staff league there. So that's how I got onto the 5. It's still a little bit to handle, especially like I work full time, I write part time. Managing the leagues is kind of tricky. For example, I forgot to bench Christian McCaffrey this week in a league, but I still won.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. You can't lose for losing, or you can't
win for losing.
Can't win for losing, but you did win.
It was Philip Lindsay got me the win. That touchdown helped me win my league.
Philip Lindsay was my pickup of the week 2, and he's been doing very well since then. We'll talk about Monday Night Football because we asked you to come on and talk about your Broncos, and I think you came on and you were like, I missed the first drive, so I caught you. I got you up to speed. I was like, Royce Freeman had 1 carry for 18 yards. Philip Lindsay had 1 carry for 18 yards. They threw the ball like 4 times to Todd Hewerman, and then they kicked a field goal. So what happened after there? I mean, to me, your defense was set up great with disguise coverages, with exotic blitzes, with zone blitzes. They were really, really messing with Mahomes and looking great. But in the end, I got to say, man, the critics kind of got quiet at the end there. I mean, he didn't have a 404 day, but he had 300 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown. How'd you guys lose that game?
I think a lot what happened is we just started playing that soft coverage. We've been playing zone a lot this year, which is something that I don't think works as well with our personnel. So I was happy to see, like you said, the beginning of the game, we were doing press coverage, disguising blitzes. Like you said, we look good. And actually, Mahomes in his first 7 drives only had 151 yards. I think they just went conservative, went back to zone, and the Chiefs took advantage of that. Another key matchup I think that played a part of that was Travis Kelce. So I have a strategy this year where in daily fantasy I like to play tight ends that are playing the Broncos because I know we're really weak against tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought we had Chris Harris Jr. covering Kelce most of the game, which was perfect because I think Chris Harris Jr. is the best corner in the game. So he definitely shut down Kelce, but then they took him off, put on a linebacker, and I mean, what happened.
He's definitely one of the top slot cornerbacks in the league. I don't get why you get away from a game plan that's working so well because Mahomes did not throw deep down the field. So it's not like he pulled you guys off the line. You backed off the line. I just don't. Hopefully somebody sees that blueprint and realizes that I mean, when you guys had 3 cornerbacks on each side threatening to blitz and cornerback blitzes and all that stuff in the beginning of the game, it was messing with them so big. I was so disappointed that the Chiefs didn't get you out of your game plan. You just decided to do it on your own. What about Demaryius Thomas on that throw? And I know what throw. I know what you know.
He ran about 3/4 speed.
Was it overthrown? He kind of held his hand up.
He overthrew it.
He did, but was it a combination of that and lack of effort? Because I didn't see him doing anything other than holding his hand up and saying, geez, I wish it was right here in my hand.
Right. I don't think he would have got it if he had gone up. I mean, I could be wrong. So I knew I was coming on tonight, so I was taking notes through the game so I could prep for today. And I put in the notes, overthrew DT, and I cried. So that's what happened in my house. And then that 4th down, man, that hook and ladder play, if that had been successful, I think Sanders gets the touchdown. He had a clear lane to the end zone. So, I mean, it's a game of shoulda, coulda, woulda.
He ran a touchdown in last week. It's a game. We talked about this earlier. I mean, the Colts lost by a couple plays. You guys lost by a couple plays. I'm excited that you took notes and you're so ready for this. Is Cortland Sutton maybe going to overtake Demaryius Thomas? I mean, Emmanuel Sanders is a badass, and I think he fits in that team really, really well. But just there's some kind of disconnect between the two. I've only watched 2 of y'all's games, but I just don't see Demaryius Thomas really fitting in with what they want to do, and I don't see the effort. I mean, you're saying that they overthrew him, and I know that ball was a little overthrown. I saw somebody that didn't try to jump or speed up or do anything to catch a possibly game-winning ball either.
Yep, I think that's a fair criticism, and I was actually really high on DT coming into the year. I know he's struggled a bit the past couple of years. He's been having like nagging hip injuries, but he like overhauled his diet completely in the off season. Said he feels better than he's felt in years. He wants to play till he's 40, like all this, and I was really excited for that. I was really excited to see him this year. But hasn't been that bad. And, it's not 100% his fault. Case Keenum hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 1. That's not Demaryius Thomas's fault, whatever shortcomings Case Keenum have. I agree he could put in a little more effort, but, got to have a guy back there getting him the ball regularly. He only had 7 targets. So I actually realized that Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and Jeff Hireman each had 7 targets in the game, but we only had 126 total yards.
Wow.
So we just need more from that. We need more from that from the passing game.
Well, let's talk about something positive. Your running back tandem, I'm really excited about. Put you on the spot right now. Rest of season, Royce Freeman or Phillip Lindsay for fantasy football? What do you say?
Oh, for fantasy, it's got to be Lindsay for me. I hate saying that. Freeman actually is averaging more yards per carry, but Lindsay is getting more looks. And you saw at the end of the game, they stopped using Royce Freeman. He averaged 8.4 yards a carry in that game, and they just stopped using him in the fourth quarter. So I think the coaching staff is just using Lindsay a little bit more. But if Freeman were being used how I think he should be used, I would go with him. But that's just not happening.
Royce was one of my, after Darius Geis, he was my top rookie entering this year, and he has been getting like 5.9 yards per carry, like 3.9 yards after contact, which is one of the top in the league.
Wow. I
think he can be a league winner, and I think the 5'8", 165-pound Lindsay, I think at some point the guy's just really small. The one thing I'm impressed with is Lindsay will blow up some dudes in pass protection. He reminds me of a little Darren Sproles. Like I'm thinking, okay, this little guy, he's not going to spend that much time blocking. And man, I saw him blow up some dudes a couple weeks ago. Week 1, I definitely studied him week 1 a lot because I made him my pickup of the week. And I wanted to see, is this just a fluke? And I saw a guy that's definitely not a fluke. And I saw a guy that will blow up a 300-pound blitzing, 280-pound blitzing guy, and he only weighs 165 pounds.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he was hyped all off season. I listened to Broncos podcast, of course, and they were talking about Lindsay all year. And I saw him play at CU a little bit, and he's a local guy. He grew up in Denver and went to CU right there in Denver, plays for the Broncos. I think that's such a great story. And it's funny you made the comment about Sproles. My buddy texted me this offseason when we were watching a preseason game and said, I think we found our Darren Sproles.
Yeah.
So I love the comparison there. I think it's spot on. One thing I will say is I think they should get him more involved in the passing game. He only had 2 catches Monday night for 10 yards. The Broncos just aren't very creative with their running backs. We look at New Orleans, they have Ingram and Kamara, and they're really creative with how they use their running backs. I think the Broncos have 2 similar backs in Freeman and Lindsay, and I would like to see them be more creative with how they use both guys.
I know that Freeman can catch balls. I saw him, I watched a lot of college tape of him, and I saw him catching balls over his shoulder, running 9 routes, running slants, running, all the whole route tree. I know the guy can do it. I guess I wanted you to say Freeman because I have him in so many leagues, and I pumped up the guy so much. And it's fine. He's scored a couple times. He looks really, really good. I think it's a great running back tandem. You've got your version of Kamara and Ingram, poor man's version, but I think you're spot on. They need to figure out how to use these guys better. And if you notice New Orleans, and we'll see it this week, they'll put those guys both out on the field at the same time. I don't see the Broncos doing that.
Yep, exactly. That's something that I would like to see. So Bill Musgrave, our offensive coordinator, he's kind of old school, right? He's been around a long time. Maybe he's just not as creative as these newer play callers we're seeing, but I think they should get both guys involved. Like you said, put them both on the field at the same time. Watch what defenses do, and if you do that, that's going to open it so much for DT, Sanders, and Cortland Sutton, who, by the way, I love Cortland Sutton.
I do too.
So if he wants to step up, Like, I've been watching tape of him all off season. Like, I'm really excited for him. And honestly, I don't think DT is going to be in Denver after this year. So next year, definitely, I think that Sutton will be a bigger factor, especially if we get our quarterback situation straightened out.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because did you see my tweet about, hey, we're bringing fantasy to the next level and bringing some of these dinosaurs in the dust. Quit listening to the guys that say Alvin Kamara is not sustainable. Come along with us. And I likened it to, there's so many teams that have old school boys club offensive coordinators that can't get off their bullshit. And the way that Kansas City is being exotic, the Patriots have been doing it for a while, the Saints, there's a lot of high-flying offenses that these teams, I mean, they say defense wins championships, but Sean McVay, that guy's a freaking genius, and
I love him.
He's amazing.
He's like so handsome. He's so smart. Like, I am all in on the Rams this year. It's funny, like, even before the season started, as soon as they got Talib and Marcus Peters, I was like, well, the Rams are winning the Super Bowl. They have the best offense. And then, like, I know firsthand what Wade Phillips is capable of doing with a defense. Like, Wade Phillips won us a Super Bowl 50.
Right.
That was not, like, Peyton Manning, he did his best, but it was not the high-flying Peyton Manning that we're used to seeing. So that was Wade Phillips. So as soon as they signed Talib and Peters, I was like, oh, that's it, man. They're winning the Super Bowl. So that's my official pick.
I love the balance that they have there, too, with the young Sean McVay and the old school Wade Phillips. And it's okay to be an old school defensive guy, I think, still, as long as you know how to, change up some shit. But Musgrave, man, I think you nailed that on the head. That guy and a lot of guys along with him. I think Mike McCarty out in Arizona needs to go. When you can only, you give David Johnson 2 targets? Are you kidding me? So you're saying the Rams are your pick to win the Super Bowl, not your Broncos, huh?
I am very optimistic about I never think the Broncos are going to lose a game every week. I'm like, we're going to win this week, but I need to be realistic. Like, even if we did make it to the Super Bowl, I don't think anybody's beating the Rams. Like, they have 3 wide receiver ones. Like, that's just unfair.
Agree 110% with that.
And that defense, like, they have no weak spots,
I agree 100%.
And Mahomes still hasn't gotten a turnover. I thought he was kind of the version of, I thought he was like a young Brett Favre that was a gunslinger, throw a bunch of picks. He threw all those picks in the preseason. He still hasn't thrown one. I saw some amazing things from Patrick Mahomes this week. I know that he beat your team, and you probably, don't want to hear about it, but you knew that you were going to be talking about this tonight. I saw him, checking out of blitz coverages just with Spencer Ware in one of the plays. Just at the last second, he just whispered to him. And it's because he saw the blitz was coming from the other side, and he knew that if Ware stayed in to block, he was going to be on the wrong side anyway. So he sent him out on a route, and he threw it to him. That's a championship quarterback. And this tight windows that he was throwing into, like, he showed that he can win differently, because the first few games it was just deep down the field, deep passes. Like I said, he didn't throw any deep passes. He just, I think, showed everybody that he's a winner, and I think he's going to quiet the critics. And I really wanted you guys to win that game because your defense looked great. I think John wants to chime in.
He even decided to go left-handed with it on the.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. That left-handed. So I'm sitting there all night listening to, I'm sorry, but the commentators of that game were just horrible. And they're just like, oh, Mahomes, he's the best. He's the best. And like I said, the first 7 drives, he really wasn't the best. Like, he didn't look that great. Like, he didn't look terrible, but not like they were making it.
It was just the last 2 drives.
Yep. And then he made that left-handed throw, and I'm like, damn, that is good. I don't like him. I'm not a fan, but that's crazy. I've been watching football for 30 years, and I've never seen that before. So that is cool. More props to him. But
John's a Raiders fan, so he probably watches more.
Oh no!
He probably watches more Broncos games than we do. So, what you have any questions for Becca, John?
Well, I think that Courtland Sutton take that you have is pretty good, and just a couple stats for you. Courtland Sutton had 6 targets. Demaryius Thomas had 7. Courtland had 3 receptions. Demaryius Thomas had 4 receptions. I think Courtland Sutton's going to take over before next year, honestly.
Yeah, I think that might happen.
Yep.
I could see it. I could see it happening.
Now,
Yeah,
didn't you
especially
drafted another rookie too? Is he doing anything?
You talking about Deshaun Hamilton?
Yes.
No.
He returns punts.
He returns punts. Oh, okay.
He's in the return. He's in the return game a little bit. I haven't seen him out on too many routes. I think they have Sanders, and he's kind of like mini Emmanuel Sanders. So Sanders is just taking all that work.
I think Jackson might have a question for you, and then we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, Becca? Hey, a question for you. So Keenum has twice as many interceptions as he does touchdowns. When do we see Chad Kelly?
Oh, man. That's a hard question because I want Case Keenum to look like he did last year in Minnesota. I even wrote, my first article was about Sanders and Demaryius Thomas and how Keenum can totally support two fantasy-relevant wide receivers. I think it depends on if we keep losing or if we can win a couple games. I mean, if we're going to win every few games, I don't think Kelly sees this year at all. But if it's, late in the year and it's looking like it did last year, I could see him coming in. The calls for it among Broncos fans are already high.
Really?
I'm not that kind of, I don't overreact like that. I don't, on my Facebook, all my Broncos groups are like, when's Chad Kelly? But, what do those people know? It's just a Facebook group, But if it keeps going bad, Keenum hasn't passed for a touchdown since week 1. So if that keeps up, then it might be worth.
I think John has one more.
I know.
And fans are always, what have you done for me lately?
Right.
That's always what it is.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
So my question is, during the post-conference interview, it seemed like Vance Joseph put a lot of the blame on Marquette King for the loss on Monday night, and I was just wondering how you feel about Marquette King being on the team.
So, when the team you hate has someone really good and you never say that they're good because you hate that team, and then they come to your team and they become the best ever.
Vinatieri.
I like Marquette King.
Adam Vinatieri for the Colts. Yeah, we know exactly what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like him. I did think that was weird for Vance to point out, really, you're going to blame Marquette King for losing the game? Who changed the game plan in the fourth quarter? That's who needs to be blamed for the loss, because that's what happened. It's not the punter's fault.
It's the most ridiculous thing. I've never heard a punter being blamed for a loss. Hey, I'm really glad you came on, and I know now why I kind of sought out, because we're only going to have, room for so many call-ins this year. Half of our season is going to be the other guys in our listener league calling in. The other half, we have Joey Bag of Donuts on. We had Jim Jacks on. That was a big one, Jim Jacks. But I knew you knew your shit, and I'm so happy that you took notes and you made some great points. Really happy to have you on. Before you leave, just tell everybody about where to find your articles and about where to find you on Twitter, and then we'll let you go cook dinner. Because you told me you were cooking dinner. Because you told me that you were cooking dinner. Not because...
He wasn't trying. I don't know what direction he was going with that. But.
Not because I'm saying that's... we're just joking around.
I am a great wife. I cook dinner every night, every single night.
Yeah, well, they all gave me a look when I said that, and I was like, oh, no, that's not why I'm saying that. She told me.
How dare you?
So where to find you on Twitter, and where do you write for?
So my Twitter handle is @BroncoBecca, BECKA, and I write for FF Statistics. So I got a lot of offers from a lot of places to write, but I love FF Statistics because they have great data tools on the website. So you can look at player stats from multiple angles. You can look at, we have a start-sit tool on there that has a bunch of different graphs and heat maps on it. There's season data, consistency rankings, and you can go back. It goes back to 2010. So when I was doing my research in the off season, I wrote an article about Kamara and Ingram, and I could look at.
I read that one. It was fantastic.
Yep. Thank you. So I just love the website because it has a lot of different tools. And they do have some tools behind a paywall, but it's only $10 for a year subscription. So check it out, and hopefully become
that's less than $1 a month.
I do some podcasting. Exactly. $10. That's how much lunch is.
You've done some other podcasts too, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple podcasts for the website. They do a DFS podcast 2 a week, so I've been on a couple of those as well.
Okay,
I am an avid DFS player now, so
nice. Well,
yeah,
we
so
smashed last
side
week. I don't know if
leagues
you
and
played
DFS.
any of our guys, but Paulie Sleepers did really well in DraftKings last week.
Oh, nice. I did okay. I had one lineup break 200, but I've just been playing head-to-heads all year, like just trying to like get my feet wet, and like get good at building lineups. So this week, actually, I'm going to build some tournament lineups and compete with my husband again and see who of us wins more money.
Well, go to paulysleepers.com and check out our player pool. Our kind of process is to narrow 300 players down to 30 and then just hammer those, plus matchups. And it usually, if we don't win, we get some of our money back and mitigate our losses. But we usually smash a couple times a year, and last week we smashed pretty good. Well, I
That's awesome.
Really appreciate you coming on and continue to follow you. And like I said, you're one of my favorite accounts to follow. So again, guys, it's at Bronco Becca on Twitter. And we'll let you go. Go Broncos!
Thank you, Becca, for joining us.
Now go Raiders.
You always whenever somebody's on like this, I always let them know that you've already, there is listeners, there is viewers, but you get a very strong following. I always like to think of myself as a loyal fan of whoever decides to grace the podcast. So I appreciate you being on.
Hey, Becca, lastly, question for you. Do you know where John can find a pass rusher for the Raiders?
Yeah, his name's Khalil Mack. He plays for the Bears. That's who I recommend.
I love it.
I think we've given him more shit today than he can handle. So we appreciate you being on. Thank you, Becca. You have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. I'm happy to come on anytime.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
That was a great conversation with Bronco Becca on Twitter. And also, we're just cruising along to our next segment. And he is a man of few words, but he has some great takes. I don't think he's missed on very many this week. We're going to do John's buy low, sell high. And we're going to go with that.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? I don't want no scrub. Scrub isn't gotta can't get no love from me.
Everything died in the house. I got scared. I dropped my hot pocket.
So I don't think I ever fully explained that part of the drop. The YouTube video that I was playing for I Don't Want No Scrubs basically ended while I was like putting stuff together. I'd unplugged my phone, and that next video popped up automatically, and it's an interview of these kids that were like, they heard some gunshots in their neighborhood, and he said he was scared and he dropped his hot pocket. And I thought it fit perfectly because people get scared and they drop or they want to sell their players. So I think it works perfectly for the drop.
Heck yeah.
So who do we got on the buy low, sell high trades this week? Is there anything you that stands out the most to you, John?
Yeah, I got 3 for you on both sides. I got 3 buy low candidates here. I'm going to start with Dalvin Cook. He has not been performing well. He's been injured, things like that. And the people who drafted him in the first round, at the end of the first round, they're getting frustrated.
Me. Yeah, I am.
Probably going to need some help. So you offer them somebody who's, putting up, at least 10 points a game, something around that area. They'll probably, take that. And, he's not going to give you points right away off of this trade. He's somebody that you're going to want to use.
You're playing the long
fantasy
game.
Playoffs. Yeah, this is the long game. He's got very good matchups in the last 4 weeks of the season, which is when you take on people in the playoffs. He's got the Seahawks of the 17th graded run defense. Week 14, he's got the Dolphins. Week 15 with the 18th graded run defense, and then they got the Lions, which is probably going to be your final week 16, with the 26th graded run defense. So he's got plus matchups there at the end of the season. You can stash him until he gets healthy. So that could be a possible buy low candidate. The next one is going to be Leonard Fournette. Same thing as with Dalvin Cook. Leonard Fournette has been injured. He hasn't been producing anything. People are probably ready to get him off of their roster. They'll probably take, just anybody who's playing right now. So, same thing with Leonard Fournette. He's got plus matchups at the end of the season. He does play the Colts defense week 13. They're the 7th graded run defense, which isn't a great matchup. But the next 3 weeks, they play the Titans, the Redskins, the Dolphins. They're 23, 32, and 18. So they got great matchups for those last 3 weeks in your fantasy playoffs. So you want to keep an eye on Leonard Fournette there. Then my last trade target is going to be Allen Robinson for the Bears.
He actually looked really good this last week.
He looked pretty good. He still hasn't been putting up the numbers that you would expect for where he was probably drafted in your league. So I think you could probably buy him kind of low. People are wanting more touchdowns out of him, and they're just not getting it. But then again, everybody on the Bears looked good this last weekend with the way the Bucs played defense.
Yeah.
So,
Taylor Gabriel's not going to get the 2 touchdowns every week. I mean, you would think Allen Robinson's got some serious touchdown equity.
Right. So with it looking this last week like Taylor Gabriel was the big guy, I think you can get Allen Robinson at a fair price this week. He's got good matchups coming up for the next 6 weeks. So if you're in a bind and you need to make the fantasy playoffs, I think Allen Robinson's a guy you should probably target and could be a realistic trade. So those are my 3, buy lows. Those are my buy lows. My sell high candidates. If you have Alshon Jeffrey on your roster, you've probably been doing pretty good without him up to this point. So he killed it this last week. I think people are going to be on a hype train for him. He didn't produce that well last year. I had him on my team. He has on and off games. I think he's inconsistent. So I think you can sell him high right now. You could definitely get Leonard Fournette or Dalvin Cook for Alshon Jeffrey right now. I think that would be a fair trade. So I think he's one that, he put 21 points up on his first game back. I don't think he's going to do that on a consistent basis. I think you can ship him out right now. My next sell high person is going to be Mitch Trubisky.
Get him out of here.
Got any Bears fans in your leagues? You could probably, rob them for all their gold right now. He just threw 6 touchdowns. They're going to be on his hype train. So, sell Mitch Trubisky right now.
We don't think that's sustainable, right?
Chance. No, that's definitely not sustainable. He's never going to throw 6 touchdowns again in his life. So
he won't even have 6 touchdowns in his next 4 games combined.
Right. So
I love that. That's a bold statement right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead and sell Trubisky right now. Like, put down what you're doing and go sell him. The next person, I'm saying he's another Bear. So Taylor Gabriel. I don't think that his production from this last weekend is sustainable either. Like I said, they were playing the Bucs defense, so they did terrible.
So sell those 2 Bears, but buy Allen Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah. But they also didn't have Anthony Miller last week, so that's another reason why Taylor Gabriel had that spike in production.
Yes. And what I feel like about the Bears was they went and got quite a few receivers, and they're all these receivers that in years past have had huge weeks.
Yep.
But just like that 1 week or maybe a week or 2.
Yep.
And then the rest of the year they don't really do a lot. So maybe it was just all of the fantasy, it was all the fantasy moons all aligning in the right order so Trubisky could throw 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Somewhere John Fox was smiling.
And those are my
buy lows and
sell
highs.
Yep.
I also really like your handwriting. It's so neat. It's pretty over there.
Thank
I
you.
like it.
It looks like type. It's like typing.
Well, I appreciate you, John. Thank you for the buy lows, sell highs, and then we're going to be moving into the start, sit, and stash or trash.
Put me in cold. I'm ready to play this game.
You hold on for one more day. Can you hold on?
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Not on my team.
If y'all didn't
Not on
notice,
my
this
team.
is like the next tryout for The Voice, and Paul is currently auditioning.
I got a little false.
I love it. I like it. I like it. I'm a big fan.
I was sending you the music today, and I just love that mass up of the of those 3 songs. And when I got to Wilson Phillips, I was just
I can't not love that song.
Right, you can't not love it, and it fit the hold theory that we're getting ready to talk about. So we're going to talk about guys that need to be off of your lineup, guys that need to be put on notice, like this week or next week. They better do something. A couple of them have perfect matchups this week. So if they don't do it, you got to get rid of them. Guys that you can pick up and start right away, and guys that you can pick up and stash for the future. So I basically looked at all of my leagues and looked at guys that are still on lineups, and these are guys that I've mentioned before, and that's because people still haven't dropped their asses. Ryan Fitzpatrick is droppable now, so that magic is over.
Poor guy.
Poor Ryan. I was definitely on the, my hot take was that he would.
I like him.
He would take the job and keep it when Winston came back, and he did. He did keep the job when Winston came back for about 14 snaps or.
But also, once again, didn't we say it was like leading a lamb to slaughter against the Chicago Bears?
Right.
Like we knew that was going to happen.
Right.
They're not that good.
It's hard to.
They've got a really good pass rusher.
I think his name's Khalil Mack. He came from
so bad.
No, and it came out of nowhere.
It's just but the Bears
who is this guy?
Did the Bears have a very solid defense before him too, though?
Yeah.
So they had a solid defense, and then they had somebody that makes them to put them into
that
the
linebacker
top tier.
they drafted? Really good linebacker they drafted.
Roquan Smith.
Roquan Smith. I actually thought he was the top defender in the draft. Brandon Marshall is droppable, especially now with Doug Baldwin back. Guys, Jonathan Williams from the Packers. I mean, it's hard to drop a running back right now, but he's gotten 3, 5, 4 points. Aaron Jones.
Are you going to bring up the Aaron Jones?
Yeah, my take was Aaron Jones wouldn't see enough of the field because he can't pass block, and Aaron Rodgers is too hurt to get a guy on the field that can't pass block.
I think he's going to have some big games coming up.
Aaron Rodgers came out and said we need to get Aaron Jones on the field more, and
he's a stud.
He does average a full 2 more yards per carry than Jonathan Williams, and he's one of our big DFS plays this week.
Williams had the same amount of carries, and he put up 40 less yards.
Yeah, he's a big DFS play for this week. The guys, $4,300 on DraftKings, and they've got a good matchup. Nelson Aguilar. I think Jackson's going to tell you why you should probably think about dropping Nelson Aguilar. What did they do? They moved him?
They moved him from the slot to outside. And his first 2
Great
years.
move.
Yeah, it was just
first 2 games was 13 and 23 points.
I just want to play the money drop on that one, but I'll save my.
Yeah, his first 2 games was 13 and 23 points, and then he's gotten 6 and 7. They moved him out of the slot. They put Jordan Matthews in the slot. This killed his value.
Right. Yeah. So, you look at it, there's so much focus on Zach Ertz, and now with Jeffrey being back, you still have Goddard, and it's Nelson Aguilar is slowly getting faded out of this offense, and then you got a giant. It's just to the point you can definitely get rid of Mr. Aguilar.
Josh Doxson is droppable, and believe it or not, people are still rostering him just with a hope and a prayer. Gio is droppable. Mixon is probably going to come back this week, and I've got him in our work league, and Jackson needs a running back so bad.
Dude, okay, so hold on. I got a rant real quick. So I have Fournette. This is a pissed off rant. I have Fournette, and I have Christian McCaffrey. So it's I was set to do all right, and it's okay, with Fournette hurt.
Looks good on paper.
Yeah, it looked great on paper. But my second running back is freaking Bilal Powell. That's pretty. Oh yeah, that's pretty bad. So it's okay.
I always say blow Paul.
Blow.
But it's okay. So, but I'm stacked. I have Stephon Diggs. I have Mike Evans, Emmanuel Sanders, John Brown, Doug Baldwin as receivers. I'm dude, and Robert Woods. I can get rid of some.
Pretty stacked.
I can get rid of some receivers. I'm okay. I'm gonna trade Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods for TJ Yeldon. And this guy's no, I need more. Dude, how do you need? I'm giving you 2 top 30 receivers for just a replacement running back because I need them for my depth. No, I need more. Come on, dude.
You gotta have some sort of budge when you're doing draft or trades. I was actually gonna ask John this during his buy low, sell high. It's always frustrating when somebody sends you, at least in my opinion, a running back for a running back because it's not really making anybody's team better.
It's a lateral
You're
move.
trying to steal my player that you like better than your own. But I feel if you're ever doing that, like what you did, you offered 2 top top receivers for a running back that's actually the backup to your starting running back.
Yeah.
So it's not.
But I'm literally
it's
making
helping
my
him.
team worse.
It's helping him more than it's helping you.
Yeah.
I can't believe he didn't.
But
I'm making my team worse, and it's like I still need more.
Right.
No, I need to get out of this league and play in more fun and competitive ones that trades actually happen.
And then he was
AKA the juice in the morning.
And then he was like,
listener league.
You dropped Gio, and I was like, yeah, Joe Mixon's back this week.
Like, it's bad when I'm considering picking up LaShawn McCoy on waivers. Like, that's my like desperation.
Well, and you really, I mean, I know Mixon's coming back, but Gio's looked pretty decent, hasn't he?
But he doesn't like it's the Mixon show,
right?
So it's not like Tevin Coleman with Devonta
But
Freeman,
also
like
with Mixon, I want to see it before I can buy it.
Right.
So it's like, damn, what if he gets hurt this week? It's a Gio show once again. So it's like, if he's out on your waivers, go snatch him up for drop someone you don't really use just to have Gio there. So when Mixon goes down, hopefully he doesn't, but when he goes down, you have Gio right there.
I had a bunch of running backs, and I picked him up for I dropped him for a backup quarterback that I'm going to need in a couple weeks. And I have like Aaron Jones, Zeke, Chris Thompson, James White. I'm fine with. But anyway, Robbie Anderson is totally droppable. Alfred Morris. Devontae Parker, he's got another injury now. It's not just his broken finger. He's got some kind of stress fracture or something, which is
it's just called he can't play. That's what's wrong with it.
So he's totally droppable. Michael Gallup is droppable. None of those wide receivers in Dallas are going to do anything. Marquise Goodwin is droppable. He's a speedster, and he played into Jimmy G's game really well because Jimmy liked to uncork it. CJ Beathard does not
going to do that.
Throw downfield. So guys are waiting for him to come back from injury because he's been hurt. He had that huge collision with one of the Vikings defenders in week 1, and he's been out. And I'm just saying, just drop him. I know you've waited for him to come back, but don't wait for him to not see targets from CJ Beathard because he doesn't throw downfield. And then is Russell Wilson droppable? We have him in in the listener league. We benched him for Matt Ryan, who's been absolutely going ham. Saw some great stats today. Matt Ryan is like almost on pace with 2016 in yards per throw, and touchdown rate, and actually averaging 30 more yards per game. He was averaging like 309 per game in 16. He's averaging 329 per game right now. So that's our quarterback. But is Russ Wilson, because like if you look traditionally, his week 1 through 6 is bad. He went from like week 1 through 6, he was the 28th fantasy quarterback, and that year he finished 3. And then week 1 through 6, he was like the 13th quarterback, and he finished number 5. And then week 1 through 6, he was the 18th quarterback, and then he finished number 4. I think they just want to do their game plan so bad, but at some point they just go, you know what, just go do your thing. So I'm waiting for them to just let him do his thing. But I mean, maybe I'm just seeing through rose-colored glasses. John, you're saying he's droppable?
Yeah, so here's a pretty good stat for you. There are 4 quarterbacks right now who are on pace to break the completion percentage record this year.
Drew Brees is one of them.
Drew Brees, Derek Carr. I don't remember the other 2.
Mahomes,
right
probably.
Now. I think Mahomes and
it'd have to be Goff,
Jared
too.
Goff, yeah, and Jared Goff.
But I mean, you look at it too. There's been 226 touchdown passes thrown through the first 4 games. Mm-hmm. That's an all-time record. But it's like, okay.
I was actually about to ask that. Like, is there any stats out there? Because I feel like this is one of the highest scoring fantasy seasons of all time.
It absolutely is. So far, it absolutely is. I guess I was just thinking Doug Baldwin's coming back.
Sorry
maybe
to
it's all good.
Maybe he'll be all right. But there are some better quarterbacks out there. So some on the watch list. These are guys that, you know, if they don't get it done this week, they're droppable. Derrick Henry against the Buffalo Bills. If the Titans can't get a positive game script ahead, so they're leading that game, and they can give that big the ball to ice out the game. He's got a great matchup. If he puts up another 4 or 5 or 6 this week, I mean, God, last week I think he got like 9 carries. I told everybody. I mean, I've been hating on most of the Titans.
Are the Titans 3-1?
They are
3-1, unfortunately.
But like them and the Dolphins are.
So they're a good football team, but not a good fantasy football team.
Them and the Dolphins are the same thing. There's no fantasy relevance, but they're good at football. So they're kind of saying screw you to the fantasy world.
I think it's a shadow.
Yeah.
They're not really good teams.
No.
They're going to come down to earth.
You can
They're gonna
put
finish
lipstick
at
on a
8-8.
pig, but it's still a pig.
They're going to finish around 8-8 this
I would
year,
totally
both of
agree
them.
with you with Tennessee. I don't think that. I think that's a mirage. I would totally agree with you with that. But Derrick Henry, if he doesn't produce this week, you need to drop him. Marlon Mack, and it's crazy. Guess what percentage he is owned in ESPN leagues, and we're in Indy, so it's a lot higher here. But I want you guys to guess what his ownership percentage is.
20%.
Right now.
45.
33.
Okay, you guys are all around it. It's 30%.
30.
I just like around here. It's probably 60,
Probably way higher.
or
Yeah.
80. And people have already dropped this guy. I mean, like I said, he can't get on the field.
Colts homers like me like to hold on to the Colts players because we want to cheer for them.
Right. I think Robert Turbin is going to come back and revitalize that.
I still have Brandon Stokely on my team.
Nice.
The concussion king.
Chris Godwin is going to be droppable soon because Cameron Brate is going to steal the touchdown equity from these guys in Tampa Bay because Jameis Winston just loves Cameron Brate. Lat Murray, who was a big draft candidate for me this year, has totally shit for me. I mean, this is one of my bad calls this year, guys. I told guys to draft Lat Murray.
I did.
And so did Josh in a couple leagues. Actually, I didn't get him in any of my leagues because you guys knew I liked him so much.
Right.
So you and Josh and other guys drafted him. And sorry, I gave you bad advice there. But
Tay train has derailed.
yeah, I thought he was going to be relevant because I didn't know how much they would give Cook the ball early, especially coming back off the injury. I didn't know about his injury status, and all of those things have worked out. He hasn't done anything, but neither is Lat Murray. So also Jamison Crowder has a huge plus-up matchup this week against New Orleans. So the New Orleans slot guys have given Shepard last week. Sterling Shepard had that.
Yeah, you guys
huge
called
game.
that too.
Yeah, that was a huge DFS play for us. Calvin Ridley had that huge game the week before that, so he's in that slot spot. And if people still have him, he's in a great matchup. If he doesn't produce this week, him and Derrick Henry are in the perfect matchups. If they don't produce, you need to drop their out.
I did hear that. Perfect.
I did kind of troll it a little bit.
I like that.
Took Spanish for 2 years, so I'm going to troll my arm. And then I have a different take on Chris Hogan. He's taken 61% of his hits out of the slot, and that's usually good for fantasy football. We talk about slot players all the time, but he's not getting the targets. I don't know if maybe he'll do better when he moves outside and they put Julian Edelman in the slot. That's the only take I can give you right now because, I mean, either that or he's got an undisclosed injury or he's just in the doghouse because he's not even getting targets. But maybe he's just not a slot player because when he's produced before has been when he's been on the outside. So if you have Chris Hogan and you're desperately hoping he's going to do better and you're worried now that, okay, Gordon's going to be coming on, and now Edelman's back and everything, my only thing I would say is he's going to go back to where he played when he was relevant. So maybe he does something. These next couple weeks, if he doesn't, he's definitely droppable because he's not getting targets, so he's not getting catches. LaShawn McCoy he's owned in 93% of fantasy leagues. People don't want to let him go, but he's getting single digit.
I need the sound of a garbage truck.
No, well, the sound we need is the sound we need is from Frozen. Let it go.
Yep, that's good.
Let it go.
I'm good with that.
We traded Wilson for him in the listener league, and he's just sitting there. But I mean, he's going to be so droppable here in a couple weeks if he keeps playing like this. So players that you could start and pick up off the waiver wires and start right now. Blake Bortles is 27% owned in a plus matchup.
Quick question.
Kansas City.
Blake Bortles, Tom Brady.
What about them?
Which do you pick?
Oh, Tom Brady.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about
I don't know though. I feel like the Bortles. I mean,
I'm talking about a waiver wire
Jags
guy that you can pick up and play if you need.
I know.
Him.
I just have both of them.
Actually, I have nothing positive to say about Bortles.
You did pick up Bortles in the listener league. I was kind of surprised because Brady doesn't have a bye till week 11.
And he's just been down. He hasn't been.
Yeah, he'll be fine now.
Scoring the 20-30 points that I'm used to.
Once he gets his weapons and everything, and he'll be fine. So no, I would not start him over Brady. But if you need a quarterback to start, he's got a plus matchup against Kansas City's
this week,
horrible defense. Derek Carr is 22% owned, and he's got a good matchup this week.
I picked him up.
You did? Yeah.
Yep. Starting him against you in our dryer league.
Oakland plays
the Chargers.
The Chargers. Okay, yeah, that's a good matchup. He's 22% owned. You can pick him up and start him right now. And I didn't know that Joe Flacco was Jax's DFS pick this week, but he's 19% owned right now, and he's got a great matchup.
He is playing for his job. Lamar Jackson is biting at his tips.
Yeah. Austin Eckler, you can pick up right now and start. He's been doing great. He was a pickup for me a couple weeks ago, but he's still 50% owned. I have 2 starts of the week. One of them is Vance McDonald because he's got such a great matchup, and one of them is Nyheim Hines. So Nyheim Hines, we talked about him. He was a preseason favorite of mine.
Another league too.
You picked up Nyheim Hines in the listener league.
Yeah.
I was interested to see if you're going to start him against us.
I think I'm going to.
With no TY and Jack Doyle still not being back, I think he'll get a bunch of targets, and the guy's been catching a bunch of balls. He's only 33% owned. If Chris Carson sits, Mike Davis is 8% owned, and you can pick him up and start him. He'll be a DFS play too. Aaron Jones is 50% owned. I don't know why, especially after he scored last week and did well. Geronimo Allison is only 47% owned. If he clears concussion protocol, he's going to be a good play. D.D. Westbrook, I love him. He's my favorite Jacksonville wide receiver. I said that in my draft kit this year on PaulieSleepers.com. He's leading the team in targets, receptions, yards after contact, everything. He's 27% owned. He's got a great matchup this week. I mean, just pick up. Somebody on my on Twitter was like, well, Blake Bortles and I've got Ryan Fitzpatrick and Blake Bortles and Dede are there. Should I just pick them both up and get the stack? I was like, hell yeah. Colts fans, Ryan Grant and Chester Rogers might have a good week with no TY. We don't talk about defenses too much, but the Jets have a great matchup at home versus Denver. Denver might scare people off, but they're obviously not that good. Sorry, Bronco Becca. The Browns are only 50% owned, and they have a bunch of sack equity, turnover equity, and the Panthers coming off of the bye week, like I said before, they're only 50% owned. If you need another tight end, because they're just going down left and right, guys. These aren't smash plays, but there's nothing out there. Austin Hooper in a shootout, 40% owned. Austin Safarian-Jenkins in a shootout. That game has a 90% chance of rain, that Kansas City Jags game. Might be fought in the trenches, might be a lot less targets, not deeper targets, so might be a lot shorter plays. So stashing Andy Dalton, 50% owned. This week, he's got Miami at home, and they've got a great secondary. But after that, he plays Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, bye week, New Orleans. Those are 4 of the worst secondaries in the league. Andy Dalton's a thing right now. He's the number 10 quarterback in fantasy football. He's only 50% owned, so he's a stash.
Hey, you should pick him up in the dryer league. You can't, because I have him.
I think I've got Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I've got Kirk Cousins in the drying league. So
he's still going to throw the ball like 40 or 50 times. Right?
Jameis Winston is a stash since he has a bye week next week. Nick Chubb, who had 3 carries. He took 3 snaps, 3 carries, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week. I wouldn't play him right now, but he's the rookie for Cleveland, and they've got Carlos Hyde, who's, aging. So you could stash Nick Chubb. You could stash Ronald Jones. Here's the kind of theory that I heard. I heard that Ronald Jones was inactive until now because they wanted to kind of save him for Jameis Winston. And their Peyton Barber hasn't done anything. So Ronald Jones, I'm not saying put him in and play him after their bye week, but you might be able to pick him up right now. There's no running backs. If you're hurting for running backs, you could pick up Nick Chubb or Ronald Jones and kind of stash them. I think you could stash Antonio Callaway, Christian Kirk. Both those guys have rookie quarterbacks throwing to them, and they're young rookies too, so there might be a connection there. I think Taylor Gabriel is a pickup. 2 years ago, there was a 7-week stretch where he was the number 8 PPR wide receiver for the Falcons, and I think that him and Cohen kind of play a Tyreek Hill type role in that offense. So, and he's very explosive. Kiki Kuti from Houston, especially if Will Fuller continues to sit.
Kiki, do you love me? I had to. So.
He went to...
Are you right?
We need to drop next week just for that. If he does anything this week, we need to drop.
11 catches for 109 yards. He went to Texas Tech. They just churn out wide receivers. We'll say that my pickup of the week last week was Tyler Boyd, and he had 10 catches for 100 yards.
Rocked out.
So pretty much been smashing the pickup of the week game. This week it's Vance McDonald and Nyheim Hines. Also,
hope so.
Cameron
Hope
Brate.
so against you fools.
Also, Cameron Brate is a stash. Jameis Winston loves Cameron Brate. They have a hell of a connection. I tweeted out when O.J. Howard got hurt, well, there's no tight ends out there, so Cameron Brate's going to be a big tight pickup next week. He caught a touchdown like 3 minutes after I tweeted that.
Hey, what is Jameis like more, Cameron Brate or crab legs?
Definitely crab legs.
Okay, cool.
He didn't ever have to steal Cameron Brate.
No.
And O.J. Howard's ankles are made out of crab legs, so that's why Cameron Brate is
snapping. I can just picture that.
John's just like, what?
John's still thinking about where his pass rusher is at.
Still trying to find him.
I think
it.
I think O.J. Howard might be just a guy to drop to, not even wait for him to come back because his upside is going to be limited when Brate comes back.
Right.
So we were going to talk about the tailgate promotion and then kind of wrap it up with our hot takes.
Yeah, the last thing, I mean, I didn't know if you wanted me to, we'll just skip the listener league this week. Basically, there was a lot of hard-fought battles, and it's a very close league. I want to let everybody know that's participating in it. My biggest thing that I love about the listener league is you guys changing your effing names.
And that's the part I hate.
It's making me laugh so hard because the Jersey Shore Rejects played GTL because whoever GTL was before changed their name to like make fun of the other team's name.
That was Dan Barlow.
Then Brian Titus changed his name to Guys Rule, Girls Drool, and Lucky Bucket Wilson changed his name to Trade Happy Wilson after the podcast.
After you said he was trade happy, he went in and
he changed it, and I loved it. And then
it should have been gender status male.
And then whoever I was playing, Mahomes in his neighborhood. I don't know. I don't get that. Am I missing something? Mahomes in his neighborhood.
My homies in the hood.
Got it. See, I didn't have that.
Some people say Mahomes. They say my homie.
I didn't have that street cred.
We need to give a shout out to Dylan, who is 4-0 in the league.
4-0. And he called in last week. He's confident in his squad.
Yeah, and Paulie Sleepers is 1-3 going against
about to be 1-4, man. This is going to be rough.
Juice in the Morning is 2-2.
It's going to be a rough week for you.
So it's still real early.
And you guys gave the Monday American his first win. Squirt.
We did. I mean,
this is a league of giving.
Michael Thomas had an off week. Tyreek Hill had an off week. We didn't make the right decision between Sony and James White, but that didn't lose us. It's crazy. We picked up Matt Ryan, and he scored like 35 to 50 points every week, and we keep losing with Matt Ryan scoring 40, 50 points. But the reality is we didn't even have anybody to drop to pick anybody up this week. I mean, our team is really deep, and we're going to give you some hell, man.
Yeah.
The tailgate promo, we're going to talk about the Bills Mafia are coming to town, and we're doing a Juice in the Morning tailgate promotion, and we've got someone from the Bills Mafia.
You do? Nice.
Yeah, John Porter, who Jackson reached out to.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, used to work for us. Used to work with us at Dryer. He's a huge Bills fan.
He has a bill on his right bicep.
I am excited.
He's got a tattoo. I think all the Bills Mafia guys have a tattoo.
We got to get somebody. I know we can find somebody to go through a table. Johnny Boughton from the Juice in the Morning Normal podcast has already said he's either going through a table or he's going to put somebody through a table.
Okay, I'm going to write up a waiver disclaimer.
Exactly.
I don't want, I am not. Paulie does not.
Hey, you don't have to condone any of it.
Yeah, I don't.
This is also an audition for WWE.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had to reach out to somebody that we knew because like everybody on Twitter was like, "This is a trap."
I'm sure he can bring somebody.
But we're gonna have a great time. That'll be just a special edition of the podcast. It'll be, I
got the location too.
So the location is
West McCarty Street is one of the streets, and the cross street is Church Street. If you're looking this up on Google, it's Taylor and Blackburn Battery is like 2 streets over. So once again, Church Street, Wyoming is the closest cross street. So Church Street, we're going to be there somewhere. It's circled. I'm going to post this picture on the Facebook, and I'm also going to invite a bunch of people. Come out, enjoy it. We're going to do the podcast first. I'm going to get soaked with some water. I'm probably going to owe some beer to Paulie if I lose this week.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. We know a lot of chefs that are cooking. Guys, if you're stopping by, bring some food, but we'll have plenty of food. The loser of our week is going to...
I'm going to bring beer. Don't worry.
You're going to bring beer.
Yeah.
And then Josh owes Juice some water, so Juice is going to get splashed with water. Maybe it gets cold by then.
Yeah. It will be.
But it's going to be a great time. We want all the fans to come, and I'm sure we'll have a great time.
Yeah, and then we're going to the game afterwards. So
Josh Miller from the Listener League is going to call in next week on his pre-draft method. Josh has some really interesting geeked up things that he does before fantasy football draft to get ready, things that I've kind of adopted. We also have some theories that we've bounced off each other and kind of realized ring true over the years. He's also made a big trade in the Listener League for Odell Beckham. So Josh has Odell Beckham on his team now. He bought low. Jersey Shore, who wasn't happy with Odell's production, traded him away for a song. I think it was Tyler Lockett and Marshawn Lynch and somebody else for Tariq Cohen and Odell Beckham.
But I do like Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
He went nuts.
He plays for the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't have a pass rusher?
Yeah, they're struggling over there. Can't figure it out.
So Josh is going to call in. Josh Miller's going to call in next week, and he's also one of my best buds of all time. And then I think we're going to finish with...
Are you guys ready for some hot takes?
Hot takes?
I've got a hot take, and I'm excited for it.
Hot air, so hot and hot, so hot and can't nobody stop the juice. So baby, tell me what's the juice. I said it's getting.
You guys can't stop the juice. Not this week.
Paul
Can't
got
stop
3
the
X's.
juice. So once again, I'm going to just start off the hot takes real quick. I've become a betting man. I bet.
Congratulations!
I bet on the Colts last week and I lost. I also, my hot take last week was if Josh Gordon played, he'd have 2 touchdowns. I was wrong. I'm accepting it. He's just going to have 2 touchdowns this week. And then, the San Francisco 49ers with the Colin Kaepernick thing. I'm not saying that I know anything, but I listened to a podcast that a attorney is a frequent guest on this podcast, and he represents Kaepernick, and he said that and he wasn't specifically referencing Kaepernick, but he was in flight or on his way to a flight to go represent another NFL player that was going to be getting back into the league after a legal battle. And then he said he was going to be leaving from there to be talking with another person he represents. And he said, don't be surprised if this person's playing on Sundays in the next few weeks. So he represents Kaepernick. Is there a possibility that that's the guy he's talking about? Who knows?
I like that you're following your hot take and
I'm just keeping up on it.
There's little drops that here and there and little bits of evidence that may.
I'm just watching it. I'm watching it.
He's damn better than CJ Beathard.
Right. And so, but my hot take of this week, it's a lock. Once again, I am a betting man. Indianapolis Colts are going to cover the spread, and they're going to beat, or not beat. They're going to not lose by more than 10.5 points to the New England Patriots, and they're going to cover that spread and win me some money. They
actually are good against the spread. I was going to tell you that last week. They're like they were like 5 out of the last 7 against the spread they've won. I guess now
the
5.
Patriots have to beat them by 10.5 points or more.
I like that one. John, your hot take last week was
that Calvin Ridley would outscore Julio Jones in fantasy points.
And that happened.
It did happen.
He got 2 touchdowns and
so he
Julio
outscored him on the field and in fantasy points. So.
Oh my goodness. That's fantastic, man.
I think John's 100% this week or this year so far.
He's only seeing like 30% of the snaps. So it's just pretty unbelievable he keeps doing that. Well, good job. I forgot what it was, and I'm kind of sad that's what it was, because I'm a Julio Jones owner and I'm a Julio Jones truther, and
Julio
Ridley,
Jones got his too.
He got his, but I mean, there was always a chance that he was going to catch a touchdown once every 4 games, and now his touchdown equity is just absolutely done.
Yeah.
They figured out the red zone issues, and their red zone issues is they just don't throw to him anymore. He needs an open field, I guess. So what's yours this week? That was a good one.
My hot take this week is Blake Bortles is going to do some crazy things against the Baltimore defense.
God damn it. I got to switch out.
Did I say Blake Bortles?
Blake Bortles.
Yes.
I meant Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry. You guys were talking about Blake Bortles earlier. He's stuck in my head. Baker Mayfield.
We've been feeding you beers too.
Yeah.
So
Baker Mayfield is going to score 3 touchdowns against the Ravens defense.
Wow.
Oh.
The Ravens defense will score 3 touchdowns off of Baker Mayfield's interception.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield has 1 pick 6 this year, and it was a tip ball by his own receiver. So it's not really his fault. It doesn't go against a quarterback.
Your hot take is going against Jackson's
I love it.
narrative.
I love it.
Pretty big, but I mean, you're going hotter. I got to say, like, you've done so well with your hot takes.
I'm getting cocky.
Instead of getting conservative, you're going way out there and calling him to score 3 at home. I don't think it's that big of a take.
Anybody listening or following
I don't
along?
think it's that. I think it's a big take, but I don't think it's that big of a stretch of imagination. What's yours, Jax?
Well, I completely whiffed last week saying that Manning, Barkley, and Beckham would outscore the trio of Breeze, Kamara, and Thomas. Whiffed on that one. But I'm redeem myself this week in that Matthew Stafford will be the highest scoring fantasy quarterback this week versus the Packers. In his last 4 games versus the Packers, Stafford has thrown the ball 144 times, completing 100 passes for 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. That averages out to 353 yards and 2.5 touchdowns. The only time the Packers have played a competent passing offense, they allowed this year 412 yards and 4 touchdowns to Kirk Cousins. Fire up Stafford for 5,700 on DraftKings this week.
I like it, and I love that Jackson's so analytical that his hot take has got to get into all these I
love it.
next gen stats and shit. But that's cool.
I like stats.
I like it. I've got Matt Stafford in a couple leagues, and I had benched him, so I'm ready to play him, and I'm ready to play him in DFS as well. I remembered what mine was. Mine is still to be determined because I said that Robert Turbin would come back and revitalize our run game and be a 2-down back for us. So we'll find that out on Thursday night. I'm not expecting huge things from him right off the bat. So, I mean, you give me a few weeks on this, guys, because I don't think he's going to...
You're playing the long game on your hot take.
Yeah. And
it's a simmering take.
and my next hot take is the very long game because we've been talking about the records that are being set, and I said that in August, these new penalties would create records this year. So my hot take in August was this would be a record year for points in fantasy football because of all, and that's archived through my YouTube videos if you want to watch it. But my hot take is that 3 running backs will catch 85 balls this year, and one of them will catch 100 balls this year. And to put that into perspective, Le'Veon Bell on a good year catches 75 to 85 balls. There have been a few 90s, and there even was 100. It's not out of the realm of possibility to have one.
Marshall Faulk, maybe?
Marshall Faulk, yeah, he probably caught 95 or 100 balls. But in one given year, you wouldn't have 3 guys. I think 3 guys will get 85 catches out of the backfield. So I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey, and I'm talking about
Alvin Kamara,
Melvin Gordon, and then Alvin Kamara will be.
And you think Alvin Kamara is going to be the 100, right?
He's on pace right now for 140. So if he slows down to 2 less catches per game for the rest of the year, he still will catch 100 balls. So that's the 100. And Alvin and Christian McCaffrey and Melvin Gordon are the 85. They're both on pace to get 100.
Right.
So
what's Saquon Barkley at? Because I feel like he's getting a lot of targets too.
Yeah, and there's other guys that can get in there.
But he's averaging 7.5 targets a game or receptions, but it's all skewed by the 14 reception game versus Dallas.
Yeah, he did have that 14.
So it's like there's not. I mean, that's an outlier right there.
Yeah, and Gurley's on pace for actually a little less than he had before, probably like 60.
But he's a stud too, man, and they just have such a good offense.
So that's mine. I play the long game on some of my hot takes. Right. Also, maybe you guys will just forget them, and I don't get called on them. But no, I seriously think that's going to happen.
Well, that was a fantastic episode, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in.
I forgot to give me credit for the Gronk call.
Yeah. That's right.
Wow. and that was going to be Jackson's first tight end he was going to DFS kind of build around was Dallas Goedert, and I told him not to do that, and he had 1 catch. And then he was all about Gronk and wrote up Gronk, and I think you got us off of Gronk, which was great, and we landed on Eric Ebron.
Yeah. So, but I mean, just my last note for the night is stay in tune whether that's Bleacher Report, Yahoo Sports, Twitter. Stay in tune to injury reports because, I mean, Ebron wasn't a lock play until
he was
Friday
they were considering him not even playing.
And Devonta Freeman and Joe Mixon are definitely not locks for this week. I mean, those injury guys I talked about earlier, there's a lot of guys up in the air. So, yeah, stay on top of it. I played against somebody who started Randall Cobb, and he was ruled out for the game, Saturday night. Yeah. So he texted me, and he was like, man, I can't believe I was like, what, not paying attention? I mean, if you're going to play this, pay attention. Don't start guys. But it happens. I mean, like Becca said, she started Christian McCaffrey on the bye week, so...
But yeah, just go to polysleepers.com. Check out our recent article. Posted it tonight. We'll be having our player pool put on there on Friday, and then both of our cash and GPP lineups Saturday afternoon. But also follow us on Twitter at polysleepers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great episode. You know where to find the Juice in the Morning podcast because you're listening to it, and you know where to find us on Twitter at Juice in the AM. John's at John Marchbanks 1, and I'm telling you guys, we've got some good stuff coming for you, and we've clearly been hitting on stuff. We've missed some stuff, but I feel like our hits are a lot higher than our misses. So.
Oh, absolutely. And Bronco Rebecca, you did just great. Thanks for coming on. Let's go
wealth of knowledge.
Hey, McGregor or Khabib this weekend? Who we got?
McGregor.
John?
McGregor.
Paul?
I don't give a shit.
Just go McGregor. 4-0 McGregor. Let's go.
All right, we're getting out of here, ladies and gentlemen. You have a great week. Hope you win some money. Hope you win some fantasy games. And we'll see you next Wednesday or Thursday.
Juice in the morning. Juice in the morning. Juice in the morning.